Last time on the Ozempic Diaries.
Hey guys, it's Ginge checking in here. It is my third dose of the 1 milligram today. I didn't see any progress this week and I worked out every single day except yesterday. I saw a pretty significant weight loss this week, even though I feel like I ate, which is pretty good. Now at the 1 milligram, I'm really starting to see a little bit more of a drastic change. Case in point, as of last week, I'm down 12 pounds.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Today we'll be catching back up with my friend and business partner Ginger on month 4 of her Ozempic journey. And today we'll specifically be discussing Ozempic as an obsession or an ED. Apologies for my voice, my kids gave me laryngitis, but a quick disclaimer here that this video does include numbers, calories, extreme weight loss, and disordered eating discussion. Also, please note that the individual in this series is not my client, so any suggestions are for general knowledge and for education only. Everyone's needs will ultimately be unique and should be discussed one-on-one with your healthcare provider. And also a reminder that this video is not meant to recommend weight loss or Ozempic to anyone or everyone. This is simply meant to demystify a lot of myths there are about these medicines and also to help destigmatize folks who choose to use them. So to catch us up, Ginger has worked her way up to her final 2 milligram dose. We're just going to stay until she reaches her goal or discontinues the drug. Now, before we chat with Ginger, let's take a look at some of her video diaries.
Ooh, why am I nervous? I always get nervous. I am down a total of 21 pounds after 3 doses, which is awesome. I'm getting a little bit obsessive over it. Not really obsessive over what I'm doing, but obsessive over what can I do to speed up the process. I just like to see results right away. So I've done a few things to help myself with that.
Okay, so I'm really glad that Ginger brought this up and she's being so transparent about her journey, because I can see how this can become a very slippery slope where one obsession with food can quickly become another obsession with weight loss. And both of these things are potentially on the spectrum of disordered eating or an ED. And I can see how easily this can happen with something like Ozempic. So an Ozempic journey, really like any major health or wellness journey, can easily feel like it becomes your whole world. And I can only relate to this with my experience when doing IVF. You know, it was like waking up early every single morning and running to the clinic at 6:45 for blood work and ultrasounds, taking hundreds of needles every week, waiting with bated breath for the nurse to call me with my results for the day. IVF very quickly became my whole life. And it became a very lonely life because it was very taboo to even talk about it. But you've invested so much emotionally, physically, financially, etc. So, you know, these results that Ginger is longing for ultimately mean so much. But when I was obsessing over my fertility journey, I did find that having more social time really helped. And I had to make a concerted effort to do that. Because solo hobbies are great and work was of course distracting at times, but it still opened up too much space for me to get in my head. But spending time with others, you know, doing things that was really truly fun or fulfilling was really the best way to pull me out of that obsession. It's generally harder to go down the Reddit rabbit hole on Ozempic threads looking for quick weight loss tips when you are physically in the presence of others. Also, and I know Ginger is not going to like this suggestion, but I would probably stop reading Reddit or forums altogether. I'm sure sometimes you get some really good tips there, but it can really become information overload and can potentially fuel obsessive disorder thought patterns and behaviors.
What can I do to target kind of this lower ab part that's always been a trigger point for me?
Case in point, if you read something online about how you can use Ozempic to like target specific areas of your stomach, get out of there. Unfortunately, we cannot spot reduce fat. Everyone has their own genetic fat distribution predisposition. And if you lose weight, you will lose fat proportionally based on that template.
It has curbed some of those obsessive, addictive things. Like I don't have to drink alcohol anymore. Not that I have an addictive personality, but like I don't find myself craving alcohol. You know, I don't find myself craving sugar anymore.
So this is actually really interesting because my mind automatically went to this idea of addiction transfer. So addiction transfer happens where an individual will try to compensate for the uncomfortable changes to their habits or routine when giving up an addiction by basically just substituting it for another. Interestingly, we do have research on addiction transfer in patients after bariatric surgery, where there does seem to be an increased risk of them taking on new addictions like alcohol or smoking after essentially curing their food addiction and losing weight. Now, I'm not diagnosing Ginger with anything. I don't think that we could officially call Ginger's obsession with her Ozempic journey an addiction, not officially at least, but it's very possible that something like this might be going on. So it's like Ozempic has in a lot of ways quieted Ginger's obsession with food, as evidenced by the stark suppression in food noise that she's talked about a lot. But for folks who have a history of hyperfixation on any vice, whether that's drinking or smoking or sugar, sex, shopping, food, etc., quitting that vice basically leaves this gaping hole in our life that we suddenly have to figure out how to fill. We're so accustomed to directing a huge part of our mental energy into obsessing over food, let's say, that when that obsession is gone, it's kind of like, oh now what? What am I going to fill that with? Where am I going to get that dopamine hit from? So it's very possible that she's attempting to fill this mental space that was once occupied by food with a hyperfixation on the weight loss process. And this is really tricky. This is where it really becomes a risk-benefit analysis, because we don't want to trade one disordered eating tendency or eating disorder for another. And if it feels like we may be falling down this slippery slope, I do think it's worth seeking out some therapy support.
So I don't know if there's like a correlation between Ozempic and the rise of anxiety or depression or those sort of manic behaviors and the mental health issue.
So I'm not a pharmacist and I'm not a psychiatrist, and I can't speak specifically to Ginger's experience, but I did see that the NPR analyzed the FDA's adverse event reports and found almost 500 reports of patients experiencing anxiety, depression, or self-unaliving thoughts on GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic. Now, this is still considered a pretty small risk considering how many people are currently on these drugs, but it's also possible that the increase in anxiety may be related to what we just discussed. It's like you have a lot of skin in the game when you've committed to an Ozempic journey. So I would fully expect the anticipation of what each week brings to be somewhat triggering. That said, if there is any significant chance of self-unaliving from a drug like this, there's a good chance that they will further investigate this in the research. So I am hoping that we have more information on some of these potential health risks soon. And if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, I'm leaving some links to some support in the comment section below.
I'm still disappointed with myself that I'm not cooking, that I'm not making these like hunger crushing combos, and I'm feeling a little bit defeated about that.
Oh, Ginger, please don't feel defeated about this. Everybody watching, do not feel defeated if this is your experience. I'm not on Ozempic. I have lots of interest in food, and even I don't always cook or make everything HCCs. Definitely not. I think there's only so much that each of us can prioritize in our life without completely burning out. Career, family, self-care, health, friends, everyone has to kind of determine their own priorities. And then even within each category, some things kind of have to give. So if your priority on your health journey is taking your medication and making it to tennis and Pilates regularly, I think that's amazing. I think you're doing great. That's huge. Don't push yourself to make every meal from scratch.
I actually reached out to a chef in Ottawa. She posted about this company called We Chef, but he is a caterer and he does these gorgeous meal prep. I'll be totally honest, I can't get through a full meal in one sitting, so they've kind of lasted me lunch and dinner every day. We've got some rice noodles, this is ground pork, broccoli greens, and this is I think it's a miso sauce, sesame seeds, and carrots. This one is chicken, corn, and zucchini, and sweet potatoes.
I love this idea. Again, we can't do everything. Yes, meal services cost a premium compared to cooking at home, but this needs to be weighed against the financial value of your time and, more importantly, your mental health. For some people, taking a big job off your plate just so that you don't burn out is worth the investment. Okay, but we clearly have a lot to talk with Ginger about, so I'm gonna let her right in. Hi, Ginger, how are you doing?
Hey, Abby, I'm great. I'm feeling really good today.
Amazing, amazing. We love to hear it. So Talk to me about the mental health piece. I know you mentioned in one of your clips that this potentially may be causing a little bit of anxiety. You're not sure if the weight loss is worth your mental health. Tell me more.
Yeah, I've been struggling a little bit with my anxiety in the last month or two, and I don't know if it's the drug, or I don't know if it's kind of this obsession that I'm getting involved in again. And like, I do feel, and I know this is awful, but I do feel like there are days where I'm like headed towards like my past eating disorder behavior, and like I feel really good, and I just want to be better, and I think that's my issue. So I think that's giving me some anxiety, and I don't know if anybody else is going through this. I mean, there have been some Reddit threads where I've read some anxiety issues, but I think the anxiety might be manifesting differently. Like for them, it's like it's not working, or things like that, like the expense that comes with not working. So I had a doctor's appointment last week. So it was an in-person physical and blood work and everything. And, I addressed it because I'm very in tune with my body and what I'm going through. And I addressed the anxiety. And she did a bit of a deep dive on, I think it's called post-marketing, or I'm not sure what it's called in the health world, and there were no indications of added anxiety with the medication. So that's what she showed. So it's very possible that maybe I just need, it's also been a stressful time with work. Obviously 2023, as we know, has been, when you're relying on brand dollars and when you're relying on certain things in this career, it's been a slower year. So there could be like that anxiety of trying to keep, 6 people employed, just like that little added je ne sais quoi. So that's been a struggle for me in the last little bit. It's not bad. It's not manifesting in a bad way, but I just have felt it. It sort of crept up. So we're going to explore. So we did my blood work. Everything came back completely normal. The only thing that there was a little bit of a deficiency on was vitamin D.
Oh, okay. Very common.
And it's not even deficiency. It was just insufficient. So it wasn't even that in that deficiency grade. It was just like kind of below normal.
Yeah.
So, okay, noted. Got to fix that.
Yep.
But that was it. That was it for the blood work. So we might try just increasing so I'm on a very, very, very small dose of Prozac, which just always has helped me get over that worry, that anxiety, that constant hovering. And it's just always been like really helpful for me. So I might just increase it a little bit and try it out and see what happens.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because hearing you talk in some of your clips, my first thought was, like anytime you're investing so much, of course it's going to cause anxiety. This becomes like your whole world. But it's also sounding to me like part of the anxiety is not just a worry. It's like, is this making me have an eating disorder? To trade one eating disorder for another eating disorder. I can imagine that's pretty scary. There was a comment from our last video from Jackie Hamilton who said, I would recommend seeing an eating disorder therapist during treatment. There's got to be a lot of emotions unfolding at the time during this process, especially in regards to relationship with food and body image. Have you ever considered seeing anyone as part of this journey? Would you consider it?
It's funny you bring that up. And everyone, so you're watching, like, we haven't pre-chatted about this at all. My doctor said the same thing. So I'm going to seriously explore this. And my problem with therapists in the past is that, when I was living in Toronto, getting to the therapist time, and then getting back to work, it was like always such a chunk of time to like do it that it added more stress.
I know. That's like me with meditation. I was like, I don't have the time to meditate, but I know I need to meditate, so I feel less relaxed, but it's making me more stressed. It's like, I know.
I mean, like, yes, and I'm going to do it virtually so that it's not a whole added thing.
Yes.
At least to start. So I am in the throes of finding a support therapist to like help me just manage some of these symptoms, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just like, just 30 more pounds to go, Ginge, 30 more pounds to go. And it's like, okay.
But here's the question, Ginger. When you get to that 30 pounds, that goal, do you feel that these concerns that you have around food, eating, past disorder, triggers, is that just going to magically vaporize? Or is that now going to become an added anxiety of like, okay, now I look good, like now I'm skinny and now I need to maintain this. And this is one of my concerns is with anybody who's taking drugs like this, is that this can open up old wounds, right? And so we want to make sure that the mental health piece is strong so that we're not just falling into some of these past behaviors and thought patterns that were destructive.
I never even thought about that, Abby. So yeah, maybe like, I feel like there's something in the universe telling me that I need to consult a therapist because you're the second person to say that in less than a week. So, and then obviously we have those comments as well, which love the comments because it always just provides us more to talk about, you know?
Right.
So yeah, never thought about that worry when I get there, but like I've never been skinny in my life, so I'm not really that worried.
Right, but you know, I'm saying everyone's idea of their ideal body is going to be different. So for you, you might hit that and be like, okay, I have to do everything in my power to maintain that, and it may become a new obsession beyond just taking your shot. And I just don't want you to get there, because the whole point of this, Ginger, was that we didn't have to be so obsessed with food. We could quiet that noise, open up our life to so much more, and you don't want to go backwards, of course.
Exactly. And I will say that the part about the food is gone.
Right.
Now it's just like, and I will say, like, so I've scheduled, so I've been doing like daily workouts, right? And my workouts are almost always at lunchtime, and it's been a really good break in the middle of the day for me. And especially because I'm working from home, like it allows me to get out and do the things. But that's kind of where I'm like, what am I going to be starting, like 2 workouts a day, 3 workouts, like that's kind of where, and I've gone down that path before. And my struggle has always been because I didn't nitpick, you know, I didn't select, and I would always bulk up, and I was really big into weightlifting and that sort of thing. It's just like not really what I want to do. So, so we'll see when we get there, but definitely, apparently I need to consult somebody ASAP. Yeah.
I feel like that's a good takeaway from this episode so far. Okay, so I was looking at those meal kits. They looked amazing. I kind of wish that we had them here at home for those crazy weeks that I have. But I know that you mentioned basically often splitting a meal in half because that's what you have an appetite for. So you'll eat one meal for lunch and dinner. And I'm curious if you have a sense of how many calories or grams of protein you might be consuming per day.
That's a great question. I actually have no idea because I haven't been writing it down, but I will make a mental note to see what I can get, even from the chef who's creating those meals, to see like what his, because I think he does, the calorie content in it is supposed to be what like a full meal would be.
Right. I'm asking this not because I want you to go and become obsessed with counting calories or protein or really anything. I don't want you going back to any kind of MyFitnessPal days. I'm asking because my concern is when, you know, you're having a bowl of multigrain Cheerios for breakfast and you're splitting one of these meals into 2 meals, and that's kind of calling it a day. My concern is that you're just not going to be meeting your protein needs. You know, most experts are suggesting around 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight when on drugs like Ozempic. And that, of course, is to help prevent a lot of the muscle mass loss that is associated with these GLP-1 agonists. So if your appetite is very low at these meal times, I really want you to think about having protein-rich snacks between meals. So like a protein shake is gonna have between 20 and 25 grams of protein right there. A half cup of lactose-free Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, 15 grams right there. You have to make all of these eating episodes that you do have an appetite for really count in the protein department. So with those Cheerios, throw in the yogurt, the cottage cheese. You want to make sure you're getting, you know, a good 20 to 30 grams at each of those meals, plus some snacks. You need to focus on the protein to really help to prevent some of that potential muscle wasting that we are seeing with some of these GLP-1 agonists.
Okay. And eat the protein first. If I get full, then fill up on the protein, right?
Yes, I want you to build your meals around that protein, because the protein is for you going to be the most important macronutrient, because one of the risks of Ozempic is a lot of muscle loss. And I know you've worked really hard to maintain that so that you can, you know, do all this great exercise and your tennis and your biking, all that stuff like that. So I don't want that to go to waste. It sounds like your blood work is going great. I definitely would say for a lot of folks who are on these journeys, getting regular blood work is really important, because if you are suddenly cutting your caloric intake in half because that's all you're hungry for, there's a really high chance of micronutrient deficiencies. But with the vitamin D, for example, that's not necessarily a food thing because we don't have a lot of food sources of vitamin D, but we live in Canada. We don't get a lot of sun. We need to get vitamin D from somewhere. And if it's not coming from the sun, it's got to come from a supplement. So for sure, that should be a priority for you. But let's talk about Oprah for a few minutes. This has been big in the news, right?
I know, and like the media is just taking little bits, and I think kind of throwing everybody for a loop on what she said.
It's hard to understand the intention behind what was said. So just so everybody knows, basically, Oprah had a little kind of panel discussion, and her quote was, "Even when I started hearing about the weight loss drugs, at the same time, I was going through knee surgery, and I felt I've got to do this on my own, because if I take the drug, that's the easy way out." Interestingly, the rest of this interview was kind of all about the shame that she'd gotten for weight and weight loss, and that we should just be kind of accepting of whatever body you choose to be in or whatever way you choose to lose weight. So it was all kind of confusing because one media would run with one angle, the other media would run with the other angle. Nobody really knew what her intentions were, which was also complicated by the fact that Oprah is an investor in Weight Watchers, which owns Sequence, which also prescribes GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic. So doesn't actually matter what Oprah said. The fact that an influential person in the media is portrayed as saying this is the easy way out, there's a great chance that now the public is going to see Ozempic as the easy way out. This is one of the things we're trying to, destigmatize with this series, is seeing this as the easy way out. What are your thoughts, Ginger?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say it's not the easy way out.
Right.
A, it's expensive. B, you have to give yourself a needle every week. Like, it's not painful. I mean, the needle's not painful, but let's be honest. It's like a process. And in order for it to really work, you have to do the work. Mm-hmm. It's not the easy way out because, as I think the interview with Oprah, which unfortunately is behind a paywall, so I can't watch the whole thing, which is really disappointing. I wish she would open that up for free because I think it'd be super beneficial for everyone. She had doctors on the panel, and one of the things that they tried to do is really break down the stigma and not shame anybody for whatever they're doing. There's a quote from the Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford, that said, "It hurts to see you ostracized in the way that you've been," to Oprah, because this isn't about willpower. It's how our bodies regulate weight. Each of us is different. Each of us is unique. Not one is superior to the other, because the studies have now shown that there is a brain correlation to food and the way you consume food.
For sure.
That to me was justification in a sense. That's that's people who don't have those hunger cues, those feeling full cues, we need something like this. We need the tool. But in order for the tool to really fully work, if you don't want to be skinny fat, you want to be healthy, you still have to do the work. You have to work out. You have to put the time in. You have to eat balanced meals.
Right. My take is basically, I don't think it matters if it's easier or harder. I think that's going to be a subjective experience for everybody. But at the end of the day, no one should be judged for getting the help that they need. I liken it kind of to the time that Liz Siebert shamed me for taking antidepressants instead of fixing it naturally with a carnivore diet, as she had allegedly done. That was up, and everyone in the comments was like, "No, girl, that's not the vibe. We don't shame people for getting whatever mental health treatment that they need. Some of us just need medication to help rewire our brains," right? It isn't the easy way out. It's maybe the only effective way out for us, if we want to say it as a way out. I'm just saying it's the only effective path that we have to take. So I see this no different than with a weight loss drug, right? Diets have clearly not served you, Ginger. They've made the food noise worse for you. And we're seeing that with a lot of people. This is an alternative path. No better, no worse, just different. And so I think this is the point of us doing this series here, Ginger, is that we want people to not feel stigmatized for the choices that they make, whatever choice that they do. If they want to, diet, if they want to take a weight loss drug, if they want to do neither, amazing. Everybody has body autonomy and should have body autonomy to make the choices that resonate best with them.
Agreed. And what I hope people take away from this and from, Oprah's comments, if they weren't being misconstrued or misleading headlines, is that we want to destigmatize every aspect of weight loss. What we're trying to do is destigmatize people who might need that extra little help, you know? But also, I don't think,
my body's never going to be perfect. Nobody's body is ever going to be perfect. And
Right.
I just hope that, these conversations that we're having, that, where I'm being very vulnerable about what I'm going through, what I have gone through, help somebody.
Yeah.
And I know they have. The comments, they've been really great. So keep them coming. Yeah, I've been like an overweight fat girl my whole life, which is fine if I were happy in that body, but I wasn't. So I want to really just help break down the barriers, and like whatever you need to do to feel your best self is what you're going to be doing, and what you need to do for yourself, and we should all be championing that.
Yep, we should all be championing one another and whatever choices we choose to make. Well, Ginger, thank you so much for, again, being so open and transparent and vulnerable in this process. I definitely look forward to checking in with you again soon. I really hope that the next few weeks go well, and I definitely hope that you get in to see a therapist sooner than later. I know sometimes these things can take time.
Okay, I will try my best.
Love it, Ginger. Okay, I love your enthusiasm. And on that note, that's all that I have for you guys today. A big reminder to be kind to Ginger. Let's keep this a supportive, safe place here. And if you have any questions for myself or for Ginger, leave them below. We'll try to get to them in an upcoming episode. And we'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!